All right, welcome to episode 5 on the Easy Project. Got a special guest here, Jordan Kahu.
What's up, man? Before we start, we always love to give our guests their flowers. Hold up, Jesus. Let's go. Jordan Kahu Kuranui, hailing from Lower Hutt, New Zealand, attended Wellington College and playing junior rugby union for the famous Petone Club, Rugby Union Club, Moved to the GC to attend the famous rugby league school, Kibra Park, captain Kibra Park in 2009 to win the Arrival Live Cup. That's a big one there. Overcame a lot of setbacks during your NYC career, going through 2 knee injuries to finally make your debut in 2013 for your beloved Broncos. You would go on to play 119 first grade games and finally achieving the 100-game milestone for the Broncos in 2020, a North Queensland Cowboy. Also played 9 tests for the New Zealand Kiwis, a World All-Star, a Māori All-Star, owner of Chur Media, owner of the Gym S30 Studio. Welcome, Jordan Kahu. My man.
Thanks for having me. That's all
What
right.
a resume. Hey, what a
Damn.
How do I go with the name pronunciation?
The name that was good. That's good. That's people don't know that. It's always my fun fact when people say, what's something that people don't know about you? And I always say my last name's actually Kahu Kuranui, not Kahu. So you got it bang on.
Sharp, right? Like we always say to our guests, it's always an easy conversation when you come on the Easy Project. But let's start off. How's life? How's the missus, the kids?
Yeah, we're good. We're good. We're like blessed to have the kids we've got. Obviously, parenthood's a forever learning space. Jess and I both just do our best every day. That's the best we can do. We've never done it before, so we're just constantly trying to be better parents every day. Trying to be a better dad I can be every day. But yeah, we're good. Kids are good. We can't, we live on the Gold Coast, so really can't complain too much, to be honest. Life's good.
100%. No, that's awesome. Look, we're going to kick it off anyway. We just want to know, you growing up as a kid, how's it been? Being a young fella in New Zealand and coming over to Australia.
Yeah, it was. I had a awesome childhood. I was, extremely lucky with 2 hardworking parents that taught me a lot. Taught me that I had to work really hard for anything that I was given. So, I'm extremely grateful for them. My childhood, I wanted to be an All Black. My whole, childhood was around that, whether I was going to school or, outside of school with my mates and stuff like that. Everything I did as a kid was to be an All Black one day.
Yeah.
And, I was, I'm quite proud to say that, I always kept out of trouble. I always trained hard. I always did everything by the book and everything right because I knew what my end goal was going to be. Obviously, I didn't make it as an All Black, but, coming across the league, I got to achieve some pretty amazing things. And to say that I dedicated, 25 years of my life towards one thing is extremely great accomplishment that I'm incredibly proud of, and something that I will reflect on and tell my kids about because lots of people can't say that they've dedicated that much time towards one thing. And from a very young age, I was extremely focused on achieving one thing and being a professional athlete. So it was looking back on it now, it was such an amazing thing to accomplish. And there's lots of ups and downs, but I think it's just taught me a lot about life. And there's so many transferable skills and traits that I've been able to transfer across to everyday life. And I'm just grateful for my parents and my partner for sticking through it all. And I'm, grateful for, sport giving me such, good qualities as a human, and extremely grateful for the life I've had so far.
That's amazing.
Just to touch on that, so you went to, the famous Wellington College, and what was that like? Like those days, like being like a rugby union player, going to a really prestigious school. Was Wellington College a prestigious school back in those days?
Yeah, so in Wellington there was, back when I was there was probably 3 or 4 good colleges that really dominated in the union space. I think now it's a lot wider, which is really good for the sport. But originally I started off at Hutt Valley High School, and they weren't the greatest at union, so I did a tough season there of getting pumped every week and just trying my best. And then, obviously going to Wellington College, where they did put a lot of effort into union and had, so much pride in, performing and stuff like that. Was pretty cool to kind of go to. I had an older brother that was at the school when I first arrived as well. So to have an older brother in the first 15 is, pretty cool to, strive to be him one day. And that's most of my childhood. Didn't mention that before, but I was extremely grateful that my brother, set a good example for me. And at Wellington College, all I wanted to do was, to fill his boots in the first 15 one day.
So who are the greatest All Blacks that you would have crossed paths with back then?
So Lemas Wanga, he was one of my best friends growing up. Probably another person I probably should have mentioned. We were extremely competitive our whole childhoods, and being the best we could be, we're always, trying to beat each other and everything, and that's a lot of where my competitiveness probably came from. Lots of other boys. Who else was there? Jeff Tumanga Allen. He's at the Reds now. Who else was there? In my era, we had, TJ Petanara. He was at another school. Yeah. But we had lots of, boys in our era that came through and did some pretty amazing things.
True. So what sparked the cross code, changing of coming to rugby league?
In all honesty, I was just being a sook. I was a young kid in the school, first 15, and back there you can't. There's no club footy to go and play on the weekend. So if you don't play for your school or get much game time, there wasn't, that void wasn't filled in club footy. So I was sitting on the bench and spending, lots of time not playing and watching, and I just wanted to play. I was, 15, 16 maybe. I just wanted to play footy and I couldn't, and I just remember there was this one big tournament and I think I played like 2 or 3 minutes in 4 or 5 games, sat on the bench the rest of that, and I got to the end and we won the whole thing, but I was just devastated I didn't play. I remember walking off, everyone was cheering, and I just walked straight to the sheds. Yeah, just basically I just wasn't willing to bide my time and not play. So that's when I switched over to rugby league. There was a league tournament, I think, that very next week. And I had a couple of close mates from other schools that were playing in it, and I put my hand up and, ended up loving it. Like, went down there, and I think we ended up winning that school tournament, and we were just a mix of lots of different schools. So we're mostly mixed of schools who didn't play league at all. We won that tournament. I just got the bug from there. Ended up playing in a couple of NJC's games, under 16s, and then my coach in that team was Johnny Lomax, and he had a couple of connections, and when he found out I was keen to pursue an NRL career, he got in touch with a few people over here, and that's kind of how that journey started.
So what was like the your mindset? Because obviously being in the 15s, sitting on that bench for pretty much all those games that you played. Yeah. Give us a rundown how you were feeling back then. I know you were a young kid. Yeah. But that next grind and how you went through that phase.
I just remember being extremely devastated to not just be playing, and my dad was really tough on me, being committed to things, and I think he saw that frustration, and let me go and play league. Usually he'd be like, "No, you got to stick it out. You got to wait your time," But I think he was just as devastated for me for not playing. So my mindset was I just wanted to play footy again. And the hardest thing was learning the rules and stuff like that, and just a totally different ball game. I did love that, backs touch the ball more than 4 times a game, I love that side 100%. Of things, and I loved that there was no bench for the backs. I was pretty much on the whole game, so I could do whatever I wanted in a game, and that's something that I really loved about transitioning across.
Yeah, that's awesome.
How was okay? Let's fast forward to your time moving over. How was that? Like we talk about this being a bit about transition. How was that as a young kid coming from New Zealand, then coming to the Gold Coast?
Yeah, it was pretty. I was excited. I was excited for a fresh start. It was hard leaving, everyone in New Zealand. Jess and I just got together before I left as well, so that was also tough leaving her. but yeah, I was lucky that, well, not lucky, my parents separated the year before I left. So I was meant to move over by myself, and then when my parents separated, my dad said, well, I might as well come over with you now. And then my brother was like, well, I'm coming as well. So ended up being 3 of us all coming over to Australia. So I was really lucky to have that support there. When we first got here, we didn't have anywhere to live. So my dad, worked his butt off to get us into a place. There was a few nights where we had to sleep out of the car when we first arrived. I'll never forget. We had my brother actually signed with the Broncos under 20s, and I'll never forget him having all his Broncos kit because they were sponsored by Nike back then, in the boot, and him just stressing out that it was like someone's going to steal it out of the car the whole time.
True, right?
But yeah, that was, just taught me a lot about, hard work and resilience. And my dad, I was extremely grateful for my dad working his butt off and trying to, like, as you guys know, in a fresh start, it's really, really hard to network and to come to a new country. For my dad to kind of, get a good job straight away and stuff like that was a credit to him and what he done for us.
Well, that's amazing, eh? Like, humble beginnings there, eh? Like, pretty much coming here, living out of your car.
Yeah.
And chasing the dream. That's amazing to see, like, where you've come from. But in terms of that, like, how was that? Like, how did he carry himself? Because I know he won the best out of you, but was he just grinding?
Yeah,
finding ways?
It was funny because it was kind of a transition for him when we were growing up. He was the loud dad on the sidelines and stuff like that. But I think when we got over here and we got into like some really good, sporting systems, I think he kind of felt like that pressure was off him now.
Yeah.
And all he had to do was provide for us. I say that we slept in the car, but we were loving life. We were waking up next to the beach in the morning, running straight into the ocean. We didn't have, like, there was no idea in our mind that was, a hard time at the time. We were just loving life, living on the Goldie. The hardest thing was having no aircon in the car. That was probably
especially
the
being hot,
hardest thing.
it's hot, isn't it?
Especially when you first move here. But yeah, like it was an extremely big risk for Dad to take. He had a really good job back in New Zealand. I was going to be fine no matter what. Like I was meant to move into one of those homestays through school and stuff like that. So I could have easily just went and done that, but he really wanted to come with me and support me and make sure that he was there for me in the beginning.
Did you? We talk about Kibra Park, man, one of the best schools like on the Gold Coast. Did you ever feel pressured, like going to, because the dudes that went before you, like Benji Marshall and that, like, did you ever feel pressured as being one of their students there? Because Kibra Park is a massive school.
I think, I don't know. I just think because of my mindset early on, I always loved, having pressure. I always wanted the ball in my hands when the game was on the line. And I was just so stubborn in a way that I knew I was going to make it. I had to make it. My whole life had been dedicated to it. So going to Kibra was kind of just another little stepping stone to me. I knew I didn't really have too much pressure. When I got announced captain, that's probably when I felt it the most, and telling, boys that were twice my size, how to behave and stuff like that. And how
Buzz, you had a good crew, man.
Yeah.
I always, like, when we see the highlights of Kibra Park, they've got a mad Instagram page and they always reshare a lot of their highlights, and I've seen that team. Man, you had a gun team. It was stacked.
Yeah.
Iggy was in that team.
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
like, who else? Benny Murdoch.
who else was in there?
Was Mosese in that?
Yeah, he was in that, bro. He was the man. But yeah, that was the hardest thing, was taking that responsibility on of, telling those boys, to behave properly. And, we're real big on being humble that year. And the year before we had, like lots of good, better players at the time. But the second year was just about, being humble and making sure that we're all working hard. And, it ended up working out.
Who was the dude that was just mucking up the most in that team?
In that team? Sheesh, I'm trying to think. We had a dude called Peter Ray Farero. He was like just the hoariest dude I've ever met. He was actually the first person I met at Kibra. So we walked in to meet the principal and the head coach at the time. And I was sitting in there nervous as like new school, new beginnings. And then he's like, Turbo! Just started talking to me, like, just came over. I'm just the hoariest fella, but he was the man. He was probably the funniest dude in the team at the time.
Oh, that's
No,
mad.
that's good, man. Like,
So now you're obviously been in the school games. Everyone's looking at you. Now tell us the rundown of how you went into the full-time squad.
From post Keebra?
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I moved over, I was on a scholarship with the West Tigers. So they put me into Keebra Park. Keebra Park had an affiliation with them. But at the end of 2009, I wasn't keen to move to Sydney. You know, I was seeing a few of the boys over the past, 3 or 4 years that had moved down there and really struggled, didn't end up cracking it. And I just didn't want to leave, my dad, who was here on the Gold Coast. My partner Jess had just moved over to the Gold Coast, so it would have been just us moving down to Sydney. So I wasn't really keen on that at all. And then when the Broncos found out that my older brother had a little brother, they started showing some interest. And then obviously when we won and I won the Peter Sterling medal and stuff like that, they were, interest came from lots of different places, but they were the one team that were, keen. So I was keen to stay on the Gold Coast, and being with the Bronx allowed me to do that. The Nike boots and shoes definitely played a big,
100%.
big part of all of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember after it might have been, it was the week before the Arrive Alive final, I had to make a decision. And I didn't want my manager to do it, so I had to ring Tim Sheens myself. I said to him, I'll ring him myself and tell him that I'm not coming down anymore. And I remember him just being, devastated. And then we won the grand final, and I walked off, and Tim Sheens was waiting in the tunnel for me. And I was just over the moon. We just won the national comp. And then the guy I rang a week earlier to tell him that I wasn't coming down was just there waiting for me. And I was just like so scared. But I walked in and he just congratulated me and just wished me all the best. So that was, pretty cool.
That says a lot about your character, though.
Yeah.
Like that's how you build up those early signs of confidence. I remember like going as a young kid, chip on my shoulder, and stuff this. I'm ringing this guy myself. Just to let them know.
Yeah.
But that says a lot to like have that in you to make that phone call, because you know what managers are like.
Yeah.
They say something but they don't do it.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of them before. Eh?
Yeah. Not naming names, but
Like let's go through. Obviously, Broncos are such a prestigious club. Like I feel like it's probably the glamorous club within the NRL. So much networks up there, so much connects. Like with yourself, with your following, and that. Like is it hard to be the rugby league player and then have the off-field sort of like stuff as well going with it? As being a Bronco? Yeah,
at the time it was hard because I was kind of playing in an era where, lots of the stuff I wanted to do wasn't, okay with the older boys. So like creatively, I wanted to vlog, I wanted to do all of these things, take photos and take a camera with me anywhere and build my brand and presence online. But there was still that kind of, old generation that were like, what the hell are you doing? So that was a really hard thing to kind of navigate at the time. Obviously, there's lots of pressure when you're playing at the Brisbane Broncos because they are, one city club, and that having that pressure from, the sponsors and everything like that, there was a high expectation to perform, and I think that's, why they are always there or thereabouts because there is that pressure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an amazing club, and yeah, like you said, there's so many good networks, and you just got to be able to kind of, look at things a little bit different from a different angle, and see how you can, best use those networks. And
Take us back to your debut. How did that feel? What was the emotions like?
That was such an emotional time because I thought it was gonna get taken away from me. The 2 years prior to that, I had 2 knee recos, and
That's right.
I hadn't played a game. I was extremely grateful that the Broncos re-signed me after one of those knees, and they showed faith in me for that. So when I eventually debuted, I was just so grateful that I just pushed through. There's so many times I wanted to give up and just thought my career would be over, and lots of people thought the same. Even the Bronx were kind of looking after me. They put me into an IT course, and they put me in with the IT guy to run some stats each week, because I think they thought this might be it as well. But yeah, I was just I wasn't going to give up. And so to finally make my debut was pretty surreal. And I remember the phone call I made to my mum to tell her that I was doing it was pretty special. But when I got out there, I felt like I was in, Disneyland. I just felt so surreal. Felt like I was dreaming, looking across the field and seeing, Billy Slater and Cooper Cronk and Kevin Smith. It's like, am I even here? That was a real pinch me moment. And then Junior scored a try on me straight away, and I was like,
he always shares that, Junior, if you're watching, man, stop sharing that.
Bro, straight away, and I was like, bro, I gotta snap out of this, man. I'm here. I need to do my job,
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a pretty cool moment for me and my family.
Yeah, that would have been amazing. Especially the journey that you've been through, and mum and dad making that sacrifice for you, and just really believing in you, man. So it's so good.
Just another question on top of that, when you are going through those knee injuries and that, do you sense that little bit of doubt from the outside, saying, "Oh no, he's never going to make it back"? It sort of gives you that drive. Is that what you felt like? Yeah,
definitely. Especially after the second time I did it, the comments that you take from some conversations and stuff like that. They don't probably mean it, but then that doubt does creep in, and you're like, shit, are they going to be right? But I was just so set on I have to make it. I had to keep pushing through, and I'm just glad I did.
Just sensing obviously what you've been talking about. I feel like you've already had the skill set outside of rugby league as well, but then you're still having that pure determination to keep thriving after 2 setbacks. That's huge. Doing your knee twice, and for you mentally to be going through that, it's good to see, because man, people are probably there watching right now. They're probably injured or whatever. But seeing you speak about that, it's touches all of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think just the big thing for me, like I said before, is I was set on making it. I was so driven my whole life, and missing 2 years was not going to stop me. And I just had to, I had to do it to prove to myself, and to also thank the people that had put in so much time and effort into me over my whole life, and especially those last few years.
Nice. Hey, I didn't want to bring it up, but one of the best games that I probably watched, sorry, bros, was the Broncos versus the Cowboys game. I remember being in France watching it. I guess this is unreal, and you were the kicking goals for the Broncos, man. Taking you back then and then taking you to last year had similarities, eh?
Yeah, 100.
That's crazy. I remember when who was it? Morgan scored in the corner, and I could see the pain in everyone then. Was that the one that you always think?
Yeah,
it's the one that got away.
Definitely. I remember Milf made a break, and it was close the whole game. But when he made that break, I was like, it's done.
Yeah.
And then he got stripped. And then Benny Hunt got the ball back, and I was like, thank God. And then he got stripped again, and I was just like, oh no. Oh no. Oh no.
I remember that game too.
Yeah, that was definitely the one that got away. The one that, when I went to the Cowboys in 2019, whenever we had events and stuff like that, that was probably the hardest. The boys were rocking up with their rings and stuff like that, and I'm just looking over. Man, I had to be, even rocking up to training every day, I was constantly reminded.
True.
It's probably good for me in a way, because I seen how much it meant to the Cowboys and to the community and to those boys, how much that win. So it probably gave me a little bit of, I don't know, just not, it didn't hurt as much because I seen how much it meant to them. But yeah, rocking up to training and putting the score into the keypad to get into the gym every morning.
No way.
Bro, every morning. Every morning, 17, 16, bro. Every morning. Oh, bro, I had to enter that code, and then walked in, and there's a big photo of when they all jump on JT after he kicked the field goal. Yeah. So I was reminded constantly. So it was one of the best games ever. I sold my whole kit straight away. I think I threw my medal into the crowd. I was like, I'm not having any of this. Yeah, true. Not being reminded this forever.
Hey, man, you're in you got that raw emotion. You're thinking, man, we should have won that. And then there's a million things going through your head, I reckon.
How was the preparation throughout that grand final week? That would have been a cool experience.
Yeah, it was cool because we go to Sydney for that whole week.
Yeah.
Went to the footy show a couple of nights before, but it's just the buzz around that week is just like, as you guys know, it's so hard to make a grand final. Like it's probably, one of the hardest things and the toughest sports in the world, to make a grand final. To finally be there in that moment, it's just like, man, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was cool, but yeah, just a shit ending.
Now with the Kiwis, man. So obviously you represented the Kiwis. Obviously it didn't happen with the All Blacks, but you did it with the Kiwis. How was that?
That was mean. So after the grand final, actually, Stephen Kearney was our assistant coach at the time, and I was in the sheds with my head, just gutted as. And he walked up to me then and there and he goes, make sure you keep that body right, eh? And I was like, I didn't know what he meant at the time. And then a couple of days later, he rang me to, tell me that I made the squad. And I was like, oh, this is dope. So like a couple of days after we lose the, biggest game of my life, I was told that I was going to be in the Kiwis, and I just thought that I was going to be going on tour. I think I was 23 or 24 at the time, just going in the squad, just there, just in case. And then I think I played all 3 tests when we went over that year, and that was unreal. Just doing the haka and singing the anthem for the first time was
Hey, the one thing I remember about that tour of New Zealand, because I remember you making it, but you started the creativeness then, with the vlogging and that. And it was mad to see you boys doing it through London and all that. And I guess, bro, who's doing these videos?
Yeah.
And it was you. Yeah, is that when it sparked the? Yeah. Is that when it sparked the creative mindset of yourself now? Or?
I'd been doing GoPro videos for a little bit, but that was kind of the first time I'd done it in a sporting team. I was like, man, I made the Kiwis. I'm capturing these memories.
100%.
That was kind of my mindset at the time. And I did a GoPro. I think I did the.
Yeah.
You slap the camera and you take it away.
Everyone's doing
different location. And that's kind of when it all kind of started, and just seeing the reaction to people seeing that, the insight that I was giving people back here to what we were doing and stuff like that was received really well. So that's kind of why maybe why I started doing it more often.
100%.
Now representing your culture, how was that feeling in camp? Because man, obviously representing Cook Island, Samoa, whatever, it's a different buzz to than just your normal club.
Yeah.
How was that? How was that representing?
That was such an unreal week. Growing up, I didn't have, I wasn't immersed in my culture so well. My dad just fully disconnected from his Māori side, with his upbringing, and it was pretty much drilled out of them at school and stuff like that. So I didn't actually learn much of my Māori culture only when I was with my nan, who kind of taught me everything I knew. And then she passed away the year before the Māori All-Stars. So I just remember standing there singing the anthem, and I just couldn't hold it together. I just remember I was trying to sing, I just couldn't, because I just was thinking of how proud she'd be. So that was just so it's something, that was really special in my career. And just the whole week's just, it's weird. Yeah, it's a weird feeling. You just walk in there and you feel like you've known dudes in that camp that you haven't for a long time, and it's my first time meeting some of these boys, and just being in that environment and in and around culture, just, having that sense of belonging straight away. And that was, such a cool week. And I got back a couple of weeks ago from, just being on staff in the same camp, and it still had that vibe. So, that was a real special week, that one.
Oh, amazing, man.
Sweet. Man, let's fast forward now, man. Obviously, Broncos legend. Let's talk about this. What this podcast is usually about. How is it been going? The transition stage of going from doing something you love for so long to life after footy.
It was extremely tough in the beginning, the first year I finished. We had plans 2020 to, buy a property. We had plans to, pay off our investment. Yeah. And then obviously we got our pay cut in half. We chewed into pretty much all our savings in my last year of footy. So coming out of footy, was really hard because I didn't have that, financial stability. being a videographer and photographer during COVID wasn't considered essential, so I was hardly working. So that was something really hard to kind of navigate. I wasn't taking, big learning curve in my career as a filmmaker and stuff like that. I wasn't taking any deposits, so I was booking all these jobs, and then COVID would hit, and all these restrictions would be cracked down, and then I'd lose all this money, and I couldn't work, and so that was something that was really hard to navigate. The first 2 years was really tough. I was still like up in the air. Am I going to keep playing? Am I not? So trying to build a business and trying to decide if I was done or not was really tough. But I was just lucky, like I said before, like I was really lucky, I wasn't lucky when I got injured a lot, but it taught me a lot about, how the real world is and how many, road bumps there are, and how many times you're going to be, have setbacks, and you just got to kind of navigate, how you deal with those and stuff like that. I've been lucky to be blessed with a, beautiful partner who's just supported me with whatever I've done. And if it's, going to networking events where I'm not even getting paid, she's holding it down at home and she's okay with that. And it's kind of just, been a real learning curve over the last few years, and I'm finally starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and kind of, being happy with, where I'm at right now.
That's amazing, man. So it took you a couple of years for you to kind of slowly find your feet.
Yeah.
During that time when you're finding your feet, I know it's like, because I only just moved back as well.
Yeah.
I found it hard the first 3 to 6 months. I was like, wow, this is harder than what I thought. Yeah. And I think that's probably one thing that a lot of guys that do come back are fearful of.
Yeah.
Were you just obviously trying everything? Were you like...
Yeah, so I was saying yes to every job that came my way, 21st parties and, small business product launches, just like anyone that knew that I took photos that would come my way or videos that came my way, I was just saying yes to. Yeah. I just, I had to for the financial sides of things, but then I had to kind of learn, what I liked doing, what I didn't like doing, what I was good at, what I wasn't good at. That was something that I needed to learn by doing everything at the same time. I was lucky enough that I loved creating when I was playing, and so when I finished, I knew I had something. I loved doing it. I took a camera everywhere I went. So I was extremely lucky, which a lot of boys, don't really have. Yeah. When they finish, they don't know what they're going to do, and they don't know what their other passions are because they haven't, done anything else.
I remember, do you remember during the COVID period, man, like everyone wanted to be a content creator. And the first person that I knew that was inspiring was definitely you, bro. So,
thanks, bro.
Give you your props, man, when it comes to that kind of stuff, because you're pretty much doing it already, man. And you had the mad transitions, and everyone's trying to find out how to do transitions. I was going online trying to buy packs of transitions and that. Yeah. And the missus was going to me, "What are you doing?" And I go, "Trying to learn something, trying to learn a new hobby." Do you feel like it gets like that? Like, so, you said about your partner being so holding the fort at home. You feel like once you give up something, you're retired, and it's like it never stops. It's like you're just... okay, what's my next grind and hustle? What's something that I need to get good at real quick? And your wife and your family have been waiting so long for you to just give them their time. Yeah. Do you find that a bit of a struggle sometimes?
Yeah, definitely. I do feel, and I think the thing that my partner and I struggle with the most is that I am home a lot now. Yeah. I'm not going away every weekend to play. I am home a lot, but I'm not home. I'm in the office, and I'm in the dungeon, as I call it, editing. So that's probably something that she really struggles with, is me just being at arm's reach, but not being able to contribute much. But she hasn't given me, much grief at all about it, which has been, like I said, I'm extremely lucky. She knows that I work my butt off for the family. I'm not just, on there. Oh, I used to play games, but but I'm not just doing that.
PS5.
But that was probably another thing I actually I had to learn. I was trying to turn everything into money when I finished. Gaming was probably one of them, and that's why I started gaming and streaming and stuff like that, because it was something I enjoyed. but then I kind of lost the passion for things that I enjoyed doing because I was just trying to get money from everything. To just keep a roof over our head. So that was probably one thing that I'm trying to play a bit more golf now to try and enjoy things that aren't giving me any money. So that's probably one thing I've learned.
That's cool as, man.
Oh, nice.
So now you've obviously got a couple of businesses running now. How's the gym? Like, what got you? Obviously, you're a fit person, but what made you go after running a gym?
So the concept started in Perth, and the boys that started it were two of my childhood friends from Wellington.
Oh, yeah.
So when they started theirs in Perth, I've always kept, my eye on it and kept following pretty closely. And then when they started, franchising and looking to branch out across Australia, I was like, I just floated to them, if you guys ever want to open one here, I'd be keen to, jump in and be a part of it. So that's how that all started. We were meant to open in Brisbane when I was still playing, but that kind of just fell through. And then I ended up moving to the Gold Coast, and they were like, why don't we open one down there? That's kind of how that S30 kind of started, and it's been a journey. It was something that I thought was going to take a lot less time, but it's a lot more time than I actually thought a gym is. I thought it was just 200 people are going to sign up. We're going to have 200 members consistently, and it's just going to be, a breeze, a walk in the park, don't have to do anything. But it's definitely not that. And I think, like any gym, is just all about community and trying to build that community and making sure that they feel safe in a fitness environment, which is pretty daunting for a lot of people. So, it's been good. We got a good community, a good group of core members that just love our product, which we're extremely grateful for. So, it's a bit of fun too, and I love going in there and training. And as you boys know, like you train in a footy environment for so long, and going to a big open gym, it's just so hard. Like you just go in there and you're like, I'll do 6 sets, and you always do 4. I'll go do 10K on the treadie, and you always do 8. Like there's no one really holding you accountable in there for himself. And it wasn't until I had S30 and got back in that group environment and just kind of that banter and just working out with other people that I was like, I really do miss, like working out with the boys in the gym. So that kind of fills that, hole that I don't have anymore.
The putting crap on each other, like they're counting the reps and all that. Hey, you do your reps or what? Count those reps, man.
Oh, Harvey Norman.
The good old Harvey Norman calls. Not the bench press that goes halfway. Hey, hit the chest, mate. Come on, man. Don't be that dude.
The hardest thing I've probably had to, navigate was, that banter, but then like with everyday people, I can't just throw that at people who aren't teammates. So it's a totally different world. You gotta be a little bit more kinder with how you talk.
I know.
Now, owning the gym, obviously in rugby league, we all have structure, we've got plans, everything's done for us. Like we're pretty much spoon fed. But now you got the gym. Do you feel like you're doing it for your members now? Kind of.
It is kind of gives that sense of routine and stuff like that. I think a lot of people now love to be labeled as an athlete, and when we're like, you're not an athlete, like you didn't get paid for it, like we have that mindset. But lots of people want to be athletes now, so to give them a place where they can turn up to feel like an athlete is something that I love doing.
Some of these people that come in the gym, they've got they got mad technique and they got mad mobility, and you wish you had that mobility, but they're not athletes. It's crazy. It goes, man, that's a good squat. Like, their ankles are sweet, their knees are sweet, and it goes, you're on your way. All you need to do is just turn up, 5 days a week and do this, and you're on your way to being an athlete. Because that's how like most of these boutique gyms are training like. It reminds you of like training like you're playing rugby league again.
Actual.
And it's good fun though.
That's why activewear does so well these days. Like people just love being, especially on the Gold Coast. Love being active.
Massive on the Goldie. Yeah,
you can't be out of place here. Hey man, so what's a key message? What's a key message that you can share with our audience that's watching?
I reckon just to stay committed to anything that you set your sights on. I think a lot of people you know, one setback comes their way and they give up. I think we're a cancel culture society where everyone's like, oh no, that's not for me, and they just cancel and move on to the next thing. Whereas, you know, people who fight the long game are always the winners. You know, this is always go back to that. You know, the turtle always wins the race, because just today's society, everyone's just willing to move on to the next hot thing. No one's willing to stick solid, and that's probably my key message is to just, once you've set your goals, to just focus on them and strive for them and do everything in your power to achieve those goals before you move on to the next.
Oh, that's
awesome.
mad.
Like you just said, like, you know, you're taking jobs on jobs on jobs until the point now you said to us before that you can say no to a couple because you don't need them anymore. You know, I think that's part of like building your brand and just building. It doesn't happen overnight.
No.
You know, nothing ever does, and that's what our listeners out there probably need to, you know, find out that, you know, if you're going to do something, hey, give it a crack for a couple of years at least.
Yeah, definitely.
Not just move on to the next thing so quick.
Yeah, it's a testimony of who you are. Like, you know, you had those early injuries, sleeping in the car, living there in the car. Like, pretty much that whole story, man. It's just amazing to see where you came from to where you are now. It's beautiful to see. It's so good.
Nah, man. Hey, like always, man, it's always meant to be like a really easy convo when you come on this podcast. But, man, thanks for giving up your time. I know you're a very busy man. I know that you got a lot doing. Going to go probably shoot some film somewhere else. But, like, thanks for coming on and being a part of our podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Jordy.
Cheers, man. Thank you.
Thanks, bro.
Let's go.